A new star rises, the star of freedom in the east. A new hope comes into being. A vision long cherished materializes. May the star never set, and that hope never be betrayed. Quoted from Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru's celebrated speech, Tryst with Destiny, which he delivered on the eve of India's independence from the colonial rule on 15th August 1947. With the adoption of Constitution on 26 November 1949, India became a full-fledged democracy. Around the same time, in India's neighborhood, on October 1st, 1949, Chinese Communist leader Mao Zedong declared the creation of People's Republic of China, and this ended the full-scale civil war between the Chinese Communist Party and the Nationalist Party, or Kuomintang. Nationalists retreated to the island of Taiwan and set up government there, which is known as Republic of China. Rise of China and India in the last couple of decades started to shift the political and economic center of the world to Asia. Both the countries share many similarities. Broadly, both have huge population, high economic growth, and ancient civilization which provide them with strong national identities. These similarities also there, like the language and the political setup. Both leaders, Nehru and Mao, believed in socialism and planned economy influenced by erstwhile USSR and tried to make the state the engine for development, ignored or gave little importance to the private sectors. In 1955, Mao collectivized farming. Farmers were no longer allowed to own land or privately to buy and sell what they produced. Mao's Great Leap Forward in 1958 worsened the food shortage, and many other faulty agricultural and industrial policies ultimately resulted in the creation of a nationwide famine in which between 30 to 40 million people starved to death in between 1959 to 1962. Following this, in 1966, Mao introduced the Cultural Revolution, an attempt to silence the political rivals. In addition to massive human toll, books were burned, Chinese art was destroyed, temples and monasteries were smashed, and contact with much of the outside world was severed. The nation universities closed their doors. For more than 10 years, the only education allowed was the study of Communist Party propaganda and of Mao's Little Red Book. During his rule of 26 years, China made itself nearly invisible to the West as an economic force, and he had doomed China's people to become some of the poorest on the planet. In case of India, the state was to be given an active and dominant role in the economy. It was very much decided by the time India became independent. To fasten economic growth, industrialization was given prominence or considered as the prime moving force over agriculture. In spite of the fact that India lacked prerequisite infrastructure for industries, the obvious choice for India would have been agricultural sector as the moving force of the economy, because the country was having the natural resources of fertile land and requisite human resources. Success of Green Revolution is an example. However, setting up of big industries by the government started which gave employment. Banks were nationalized to provide loans to small borrowers. In order to make goods, many companies needed licenses granted by the government's license Raj, which has become a semi-permanent fixture. Despite demand, a company cannot make or produce more than it was licensed to produce, because it may violate India's anti-monopoly rules, which has been designed to foster the creation of small companies nationwide as a way of economic self-sufficiency. Rajiv Gandhi tried to reform economy and undertook measures, but it could not take off properly in the face of opposition from government employees and farmers, and his government was also entangled in Bofors scandal. Ultimately, he was defeated in election in 1989. In 1991, India faced a severe financial crisis due to balance of payment crisis, contributed mainly due to the loss of investors' confidence, hike in oil prices during 1991 Gulf War, and collapse of USSR. So India, unlike other Asian economies, involuntarily decided to undertake obligatory reform as suggested by the IMF to mitigate balance of payment crisis, which includes devaluation of currency, decrease in import tariff, cut down government expenditure, etc. among others. But why, after all, the government headed by Narasimha Rao and the Finance Minister Manmohan Singh credited to start the reform process in India? It is because they thought it suitable to follow and make it politically possible in India. 13 years before, in 1978, A more pragmatic leader, Deng Xiaoping, who took over in China after Mao's death, opened his economy and draw inspiration from Singapore's development model. He has also solved the problem of ideological legitimacy, how one can bring about market reform in a communist state. In this effect, Deng was helped by parties' disappointment with Maoist approach to development and politics. As he famously put in, no matter if it is a white cat or a black cat, as long as it can catch mice, it is a good cat. So he kick-started sweeping reform, ended state monopoly on purchasing and selling of agricultural products, and lifted price limits on most of the farm products. As a result, farmers prospered. After agricultural reform, Deng started industrial reform. He formed special economic zones where China suspended its usual anti-business laws in favor of low taxes and streamlined business rules for factories making goods that would be sold overseas. Deng created the special zones to reintroduce capitalism in China, which Mao had tried to eradicate. Since then, China moved from planned to more market-based economy, built modern infrastructure, and attracted foreign investment. In the next 25 years, foreign companies invested more than $600 billion into China, which is more than what USA spent on the Marshall Plan, which helped to rebuild Europe post-World War II. Foreigners built hundreds of thousands of factories nationwide and hired tens of millions of people and make China factory of the world because of its reputation for exporting low-cost manufacturing goods and maintained constant growth rate of 10% over the next 3 decades. Doubled its GDP in record 9 years. As per World Bank President Jim Kim, China has increased its per capita income 25-fold and more than 800 million Chinese people lifted themselves out of poverty as a result, which accounts for more than 70% of the total poverty reduction in the world. So the economic journey of China since reform took off in 1978 has been phenomenal, and controlled population through one-child policy. Phenomenal growth is also contributed by the authoritative nature. Take the case of Three Gorges Dam project, alone inundated 365 towns with water, requiring about 1.2 million people to move, virtually all of it accomplished by government order. This is not possible in case of India. China is also blamed for gross human rights violation. To set up factories, farmers were thrown off land they had tilled for decades. Bottleneck development has caused terrible pollution, forced laborers to work overtime long into the night, and suppression of protest. And this picture shook the world, but his act of bravery and defiance is remembered almost everywhere worldwide. India's growth has been slow and steady, though reform process started in 1991, but it cannot match China's speed and rhythm, mainly due to the political instability because of successive coalition governments at center since then till 2014. Which further worsened by corruption, red tapeism, inefficiency, etc. Government is more concerned about public perception rather than economic necessity. However, India also started producing necessary infrastructure like roads, ports, better communication to attract foreign investment and create jobs. In case of doing business, India's progress has been good in recent times. India is a global center for services, specifically hub of outsourcing business work processes and software, and made herself one of the fastest growing major economy, and have prosperous future as India possesses more young population in the world. There are many areas which needs urgent attention, like the plight of the farmers, population control, and improvement of health infrastructure, and more importantly educating the masses, which will ultimately propel economic growth and development. China went far ahead of India, especially in the last 2 decades, though their free journey started almost at the same time in mid-20th century. Since the current president Xi Jinping took over, China started to assert its supremacy. Xi reversed Deng's decision to set aside China's maritime disputes and cultivate stable external environment, and started vigorous expansion of Chinese ambitions in East and South China Sea, and adopted more confrontational approach towards its neighbor. China's Belt and Road Initiative is a massive infrastructural investment which may usher in a new era of trade and growth for economics in Asia and beyond. But skeptics worry that China is laying a debt trap for borrowing governments as the cost of many of the projects have skyrocketed. Opposition has already started in some countries. In recent times, China adopted offensive defense policy towards India and wants to engage in Mao's five-finger policy. Mao considers Tibet, which China captured in 1950, as the right palm, and considers Ladakh, Nepal, Sikkim, Bhutan and Arunachal Pradesh as its five fingers, and wanted to leverage this, even at the cost of destabilizing India by exploiting India's internal divide, thus helping several extremist outfits in northeast, Maoist and left-wing extremists, and provide indirect support to separatists in Kashmir via Pakistan, and started frequent border incursions at multiple points from Ladakh to Arunachal Pradesh. China also wants to encircle India through string of pearls and continues to push ahead with CPEC, China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, even though it knows very well that it passes through Pak-occupied Kashmir. China must realize that era of expansionism is over, as our Prime Minister rightly pointed out during his recent visit to Ladakh, and it also should understand that with great power comes greater responsibility, which they failed to show by spreading the coronavirus pandemic. This, along with trade war and power tussle with USA and territorial dispute with its neighbor, resulted in creation of more enemies than friends for them. So China, be assured that the post-COVID world will not be the same again.